Hey Garth Gang, and welcome back to a Path of Exile video. Sorry there haven't been very many of these in the last couple of weeks, but I've been doing a lot of testing and focusing testing on this particular character. More details coming up. This is a Trickster explosive arrow hit endless heist character. At the time of recording, this build isn't around anywhere on the internet that I can find. I have taken inspiration from Spicy Sushi's Elementalist explosive arrow endless heist character that he then took on to blueprint farming. I've then also taken inspiration and part of the path of building from Baylor Mage's Raider explosive arrow mapper. Baylor Mage also did a on hit version, so that's where the inspiration has come from. And I always used to love Trickster, and Trickster is amazing at the moment, so I'm hoping that this build will survive 3.20 patch changes. This video was recording in parts, so hopefully my editing skills will get a little bit better and the whole video will come together and make sense. So sit back and hopefully enjoy this brand new heist build. On screen now is the endgame version of a explosive arrow Trickster build. I have been playtesting to see if this idea worked. As far as I can see, there is no one out there doing this type of build. A lot of the explosive arrows are elementalists, and they are either proccing ignite or they are planning on to going BP. This particular video is dedicated to an endless heist character, level 67, using explosive arrow as a Trickster. Explosive arrow hit, not ignite. That's the intention. It seems to work. I've had plenty of fun with it, leveling it up, etc. So how was this build tested? First of all, we started off with several tests in solo self-found standard, testing every single league start gem the Trickster can start with, or Shadow can start with, sorry. We don't have access to explosive arrow until we hit Act 6 and open up Lily Roth. Hello Lily, thank you very much. So you have to level the character. So numerous testings were done by myself in an SSF environment to see which skill would work better. And the path of building, which we'll go into later, will go into detail as to why we picked the particular gems we're going to focus on as leveling. This was tested in solo self-found as a shadow. This was tested as a shadow that had a ranger mule, certain gems. Now at league start you don't particularly want to be running a mule, but the mule got all the way up to level 12 to unlock explosive arrow. That's a huge amount of time to dedicate to a mule, to then re-roll into a shadow, to then effectively start your league start. We also did a playtest in standard, which is the league this character is in, with powerful leveling uniques, and also leveling in standard without leveling uniques, but access to basically unlimited currency. So we could 4-link, we could color, we could essence craft, we could do fossil crafting. So although we weren't using uniques, we were using powerfully rolled rare items. All the tests came out, so the build on screen, which we'll go into soon, is the result of these tests to make sure that we had the right setup, the right way of leveling, and ultimately the right build for you to have fun in Heist. Coming up next, end game overview of this particular build. We now look at the endgame version of the explosive arrow Trickster for endless heist leveling. Let's go over the gear first. So as per standard, as you can see just by looking at it, we do have the Queen of the Forest, we do have Devoto's helm, and we've got a Hero's Bite quiver. So housing our self-cast explosive arrow is a 6-link quill rain. So we've got explosive arrow, mirage archer, cruelty, ignite prolif, inspiration, and elemental damage with attacks. In the Queen of the Forest, we have our explosive arrow housed with a totem, inspiration, combustion, and elemental damage with attacks. In the Devotos, we've got our auras, grace, haste, precision, and defiance banner, which is why purity of elements mana reservation is not affecting us because we're not running it. As for a amulet, the best in slot is an Astromantis with a sovereignty anointed. If you can't or don't have the sovereignty anoint, then I would drop precision first, then defiance banner. After that, if you still don't have enough mana, you need to be running an enduring mana flask. Here is Bite, as mentioned before. Death Rush, may be expensive on league start. Just save up the currency until you can afford one. It is so nice for that adrenaline. In the other one, we've got a Chaos Resistance, and you will need, or it's helpful to have, the non-challenge skills -7 mana craft, which is a prefix. If you don't have that yourself, because you haven't engaged with Jun and got the Veiled modifier, you may need to speak to friends, guildmates, or a friendly streamer, or go to TFT Discord channel and get someone to craft it for you. On to the gloves. In our gloves, house our cast and damage taken, molten shell, life tap, and increased duration. In our boots, we have our phase run with efficacy, increased duration, and life tap. Both life taps are level 1 and remain at level 1. If you accidentally level them up, go and speak to Lilith and buy a new level 1 and try to remember not to level it up. The actual gear on this character is well rolled. It's stuff I had in my standard stash. As you can see, we're in standard league, and I just popped it on there for purposes of testing. So these are the gloves. These are the boots. Although these boots are quite bad, they've only got 25% movement speed. They would and should be at least 30%. The belt is quite tasty too, along with this hypnotic eye jewel in our Stygian Vice. To make up for it, other than our Quicksilver flask, our flasks are rolled like trash. We've got a low level life flask with anti-bleed. We've got a well rolled Quicksilver flask, 20% qualityed with 9% increased suffix. We've got a Onslaught with reduced curse effect, and we've got an Evasion flask picked up. Onslaught was picked up in Act 10 quest reward. The Jade Flask was picked up in Act 7 as a quest reward, and the Granite Flask was picked up in Act 5 as a quest reward. They've all been qualityed and then rolled using alts. The qualities come from my stash, not what I picked up during leveling. Ideally, these would all be ailment immunity, so this one would be probably anti-freeze, anti-ignite, and then this one is either reduced curse effect, reduced shock effect, or immunity to poison. Your choice. That's the gear overview done, and the gem links. We'll go on to the tree. We are a trickster, so the ascendancies taken in order are one step ahead for the base value, and more importantly the small node with the increased evasion and increased attack speed. Obviously, once you put your Queen of the Forest on, that evasion turns into movement speed. We then at cruel level took Polymath for the increased damage per mastery and recover 1% life, energy shield, mana on kill as well. And obviously this one also has more evasion, which triggers our movement speed once we're wearing Queen of the Forest. And then finally, for our Merc Lab, we take Escape Artist, mainly for the small node again, a default 4% increased movement speed with evasion, which procs from Queen of the Forest from even more movement speed. The first line of Escape Artist is irrelevant because Devotos doesn't have any energy shield. However, we do get bonus energy shield per 6 evasion on our Queen of the Forest armor. So hopefully when you're getting your Queen of the Forest, I would focus on getting a really high evasion roll. The stats on there are probably not that important, depending on resists on your boots, gloves and belt, and your ring, of course. So if you can get away with it, resist away on your other gear, and then buy your Queen of the Forest with as much evasion as possible and with other high quality as possible, even as far as going ahead and buying a hillock 30% craft from TFT or your friends, etc. As for the rest of the tree, it does look a little bit out of the way there, but we are stacking masteries. This tree includes 10 different masteries. We have 1 totem, 2 flask, 3 life, 4 reservation, 5 evasion and energy shield, 6 evasion, 7 elemental mastery, 8 spell suppression mastery, 9 bow mastery, and 10 accuracy mastery. So we start off, we shoot round here. As per the POB, it's got all the leveling trees in there. I won't go through too much, but we do pick up Blood Drinker, Resourcefulness, Charisma, Revenge of the Hunted, Forces of Nature, Void Barrier, Inveterate, I need to learn how to say that properly, and all the other nodes here that you can see in the POB, which will be linked in the description below. As for the important thing, the in-game says we have a movement speed of 118%. That's what this looks like. I think it's faster, so does the POB. If we activate our Quicksilver Flask, we get a bit faster, and then add in the phase run as well, we get a hell of a lot faster. There we go. I do have a level 67 Deception contract prepped and ready to run, so for gameplay. So let's pop into the Rokamba and get that done. Before I enter the contract, I would just like it noted that I am running a very strict filter. So what you see on screen from this heist is not an accurate reflection of what loot could be dropped from these type of contracts at this level. Okay, now I just need to concentrate because I don't particularly want to die. I've not seen the energy shield drop very below on this. We're going to ignore that big chest, it's just an armor. If you're running Chaos Recipe, you would of course pick it up. Go and get the div cards. Throw some self-casts down and kill those. Boom. I don't stack job speed on my Gianna because she can't be interrupted. I don't see the point. There's other roles that are better on her gear. Let's just kill this unique. There we go, dead. If you are planning to take this character further, I will provide a higher level tree in the POB. There we go, and off we go. Nice, simple deception contract. Normally, I would also use an enkindling orb on my Quicksilver Flask for an increased duration roll, but as I said, they were badly rolled. So there we go. That is the build in a contract. As you can see, our health didn't move a lot. We had no need of our flask other than 1 bleed removal. No need for a mana flask, thanks to one thing I did miss off the passage tree, and I apologise for. We are running a replica Conqueror's efficiency for the -9 mana cost. So our mana costs, if I just nip back to the hideout. So we've got a -7 on our ring and a -9 on our passive tree due to the duel. That's a -16 mana cost. So our self-cast is down to 9 and our explosive arrow totem is 1. Without the ring, we'll take the ring off and just nip in here and remove the jewel, remove the draw, press the right button, remove the draw. We are now up to 25 and 17. It shouldn't still be a drain, because the idea is, you cast 3 self-cast explosive arrows and then something should die to generate your mana back, and also you would have Mirage Archer proccing as well. So even without the -7 and the -9, your build should function. Alright, come on, there we go. And there we go. That's the end of this portion of the video. Coming up next is the POB. Onto the in-depth path of building overview guide now, and during the testing I tested all of the starter skills that a shadow can start with on a league start scenario, and the best and easiest one I found to level through to Act 6 was traps. The reason we go to Act 6 is because it's the first time we can pick up explosive arrow. Now, the library isn't included at all because that's in the middle of Act 4, and that's a whole re-gearing you'll have to do in the middle of Act 4, a change of weapons, change of gear, and then you may have to change that gear again in Act 5 due to the death of Guitardo. It is a lot easier just to stay with one setup all the way through to Act 6 and then do the change. So that's the theory. It's worked in all my tests. Let's move on with the path of building. Because then we are using a skill that's not our end game skill and is not related to our end game skill, all of the passive points we take are defensive, life and utility based. You don't need any damage nodes because the traps do a tremendous amount of damage by themselves with the crafted wands. So you're dual wielding spell damage implicit wands with the craft on there, and then you just lay your traps and everything dies. In Act 1 I shot straight right, went Blood Drinker and picked up Resourcefulness. After that I came down and took Revenge of the Hunted, then I went for Hired Killer and the Life Mastery, then I came down to get Survivalist, and then I went for the Charisma and finally the Reservation Mastery with Ballistics right near the end. That's how I did it, and that's how I suggest you do it the same. In Act 1 the first trap we pick up is Explosive Trap, and then later on during Act 1 we pick up Lightning Trap and the supports. Act 2 we only add Skitterbots. Act 3 we add Purity of Elements, and in Act 3 again near the end we pick up Flamethrower Trap, waypoint back to Act 2 and pick up the supports for Flamethrower Trap, because you have more currency at this stage than you would do at the stage you would need to pick up the supports in Act 2. Item wise 1 to 3, this is a base set of gear that I used / was looking for during the leveling process. You do need a Lapis Amulet, preferably one with max rolls, which is 30 intellect. I have put here a chain belt to give you some energy shield. That's really to help you against the rowers in mud flats, to help prevent 1 or 2 stuns. After that you do look for a strength belt, preferably one with a max roll, or you can just retain the chain belt for the energy shield until Act 4. Once you get to Act 4 you will need a strength belt. Talking of Act 4, in Act 4, at some point during Act 4 you'll get, when you're comfortable enough to do so, or Act 5 if you wish, before killing Katava anyway, you need to go and do your normal lab and pick up 1 step ahead. That makes us a Trickster, and we fill out some more evasion and start to get some bit of spell suppression here. We come down to get some life, more evasion, armor, a bit of armor and some elemental resists. We pick up this full suppression node here, and the mastery states we need evasion on our boots, helm and gloves, so you've got to bear that in mind from now on when you're doing your gear upgrades. Not so much really important here, but after later on, without this mastery proccing, you will not be spell suppressed, so you might as well get used to looking for that gear now. You also pick up the Assassin's Haste jewel and pop it in there for the mana regen and movement speed. And we also pick up Void Barrier temporarily. Skill wise, in Act 4 we are now running 3 4-links, Lightning Trap for clear, Explosive Trap for single target because we've added the Culling Strike, and Flamethrower is situational. It is a massive AoE. It does a ton of damage, but it is static. So if something moves out of its AoE, it's not going to do anything. So if you are going to drop them, make sure you're running around the edge, and the mobs are inside the flamethrower trap, and they'll die. Only running Purity of Elements. We dropped Skitterbots because of mana issues. Frostblink is our travel skill. 4 to 6, we upgrade our crafted ones. We buy higher spell damage implicits, and then we recraft them, either using the same crafting method we did in Act 1, or you can use a rare ring and get an even bigger bonus. Your choice. If you don't have spare rare rings, don't do it. If you don't have spare currency to waste on sacrificing these rare rings, don't do it. The higher implicits with the original spellcraft will work. As mentioned earlier, keep an eye on for your evasion, whether it's hybrid, base or armor, either or. One of your gear sets will need to be evasion and it's your base, so you can add on the craft of plus intellect. It caps out at plus 20, and you kind of need about 19, so you might need to do the craft twice. The craft you pick up from one of the crafting recipes as you go through the campaign, and they're all near waypoints or easy to pick up, so it should be easy enough to pick up that. And then on an armor evasion base, such as your gloves, you would craft the same for strength. If one craft won't do it, you might have to do 2 separate crafts on other gear. Of course, we've already got a max rolled in amulet and a max rolled strength belt, so it is quite hard to get the strength and intelligence. You just have to be careful with your crafting. In Act 5 also, of course, we do pick up a flask quest, and on this point we take a granite. Act 7 we do another flask quest and pick up a jade flask, and in Act 10 we do another flask quest and pick up a onslaught silver flask. So that's the 3 flasks you use. Also trying to look for an enduring mana flask, so sanctified mana flask, and then throw some ults at it, hope to get enduring. Don't waste too many ults, so you'll need them for later. And once we've done that, we kill Act 5 Katava. We then do a complete re-gear. Kill Act 5 Katava, go and do Lily Roth's quest, then we do our respec. 3 points come off, so we lose the Void Barrow 3 nodes. We pop 1 into Harrier, 1 into a Dex node here, and 1 into Aspect of the Links. And then also, skill wise, we drop all of our traps. Thank you for all the fish. Goodbye. We then, the 8 most important gems here are to start your explosive arrow setups. So you need 2 explosive arrows, 2 elemental damage with attacks, 2 inspirations, 1 Mirage Archer for your self cast, and 1 Ballista Totem for your totem setup. After that, you would need to buy a defensive banner, retrieve your precision that you'd leveled up earlier, put it with your Purity of Elements, that becomes your auras. Then get into phase run, a level 1 life tap, increase duration. Never level the life tap. If you accidentally level it to level 2, go and buy a new one from Lily Roth. Same with the Molten Shell life tap, level 1. If you accidentally level it to level 2, go and buy a new level 1 from Lily. Increased duration, Molten Shell. Now I know you can pick up a cast when damage taken from Act 4, but you cannot pick up any of the other 3, so it's a bit pointless. You might as well wait until Act 6. Item wise, in Act 6 for the re-gear, we're looking to then have our Hero's Bite, whether you've crafted it yourself or using the vendor recipe, which is covered in the notes section, or whether you buy one from trade. They're usually about 1 to 5C depending on how well they're rolled. You do need one with quite high strength and intelligence rolls. Those are the 2 to focus on. Everything else is a bonus. After getting that, switch to an Agat amulet. Again, one with preferred max implicit of 24 strength and intelligence. Still keeping a heavy belt, max rolled strength. That gets our strength done. And then you just need to find, depending on how well your Hero's Bite has rolled from the vendor recipe or the one you've brought from trade, is on intellect. Depends on how many intellect crafts you need to put on your rings, amulet, or anywhere else you can fit it. From Act 6 we then go into Act 6 to 10 and get our Cruel Lab down, picking up Polymath in Cruel Lab, and this is where our tree really becomes a bit of a spider's web. It goes all over the place. The reason for this is Polymath. We do pick up 10 masteries, so that's 30% increased damage, and 10% life on kill, energy shield and mana on kill every time we kill something. Not so much handy in the campaign while we're doing the bosses and stuff, but if you get in, once you get into Heist, you don't die. Your sustain is so massive, you just don't die. Skill wise, going through there, I have included, actually, point of note, on both explosive arrow setups, the 4 links that you've got to have, and then the 5th link if you happen to have a 5 link, and then if you've got 6th link, your 6th link. Same with the totem setup. So it gets a bit complicated. If you have one 5 link, I would put it on the totem setup. If you have 2 5 links, obviously both. If you've got one 6 link, put it on the self cast. If you've got a 6 link and a 5 link, the 6 link goes to the totem and the 5 link goes to the self cast. I just lost myself there while I was taking a drink. Right, there we go. So 6 to 10, we assume by this point you'll have 2 5 links to get those explosive arrows up and running. And then also you have all your 4 skills done, 4 links done. And now somewhere around Act 9, Act 10, you want to swap into your full aura setup, your final endgame setup for auras, which is Grace, Defiance, Banner, Precision and Haste. You won't be able to fit in Haste until you have your anointment done on your amulet, and you do not want to get your anointment done on your amulet until you've got the amulet you're going to be using for the build, because the anointment is expensive and so too can the amulet be. So there is no way you can fit it in other than turning off all the other 3, and that is not a sacrifice that is worth making. You could level down the precision to level 1 and turn, but even then, if you turn off both of these, you end up with 300 odd mana. You put on haste, you don't have 133. It's going to be risky. I'd much rather have the other 2 on and have 200 mana and then just wait for haste. It's not that important until you get into the Handler's Heist section. 6 to 10, we start looking for the uniques, as per mentioned. Quillrain, 5 link, Queen of the Forest, 5 link, and this is where we would like to pick up a Astromantis. Doesn't matter how well it's rolled, preferably the higher the attributes are better. As long as you can get 1, that is great. If you've got the currency to buy a really good one, don't worry about the implicit so much. You get plenty of blessed orbs in Heist. Don't worry about that. It's the all attributes, the one below the implicit, that we're worried about. So if you can get that one rolling high, great, and then you can sort out the implicit at a later time. Keep an eye on your evasion bases for your gloves and boots and helm for your spell suppression, because at this point we are spell suppression capped if you've got evasion on your helm, gloves and boots. If not, you lose 12% spell suppression chance and you're no longer spell suppressed. So that's that. We've got our Conqueror's Efficiency in Act 8, replaces Assassin's Haste, so that's the reduced mana cost of skills and mana reservation as well. Not a lot, but it works. And then after that, finally we hit the Endless Heist scenario. We do the final few quest points to fill out our tree. We get up to the point where it says go and kill Katava, and we don't. You level to 67. If you're already done so, go and do your Merc Lab and pick up Escape Artist. This node here gives a lot of movement speed because it's got the increased evasion plus the 4% increased base, and then we pick up Escape Artist. The evasion on per max energy shield is irrelevant. Devotos does not have any energy shield on it, it's an armor evasion base. However, 1 energy shield per 6 evasion on body armor, that gives us nearly 700 energy shield because it's Queen of the Forest. So when you're buying your Queen of the Forest, go for one that has really high evasion. All the other stats are irrelevant, just get the one with a really high evasion. And then that'll give you tons of energy shield. As you can see, the base one in the POB has got gives us nearly 680 energy shield, which is amazing. Plus all the tree investment in energy shield as well. So onto our skills then, we move into our final build, presuming you've got 2 6 links. As I said before, you don't have to have 6 links, this will work fine in 5 links. You've got the full aura set up here. Precision is level 10, but you can level that down. Just beware of your mana. I had about 80 mana at the end game on the showcase, I think it was. That was more than enough. So you got your movement ability in the gloves. We dropped Frostblink by this point in exchange for efficacy, so you don't actually have to change the gloves at all. Just need to, it's still 2 red, 1 green, 1 blue. Life tap still at level 1. Same with the casting damage taken, life tap still at level 1, and then you level this up until it says trigger supporter skills when you take a total of, and that number needs to be about 1/3 of your max life. And then once you've got your casting damage taken to the relevant size, so in this case level 4, which requires level 44, your molten shell matches it. And then finally your totem. Again, you don't have to get a 6 link on here, a 5 link will do nicely. Items wise, this is the full unique setup. So we've got the Astromentis there, you've got a really well rolled one. Go and buy your 3 silver oils and get your sovereignty on there. Buy your Death Rush if you haven't had one drop in Heist. You can, it's just unlucky, they could be expensive. Your 6 link / 5 link Queen of the Forest, your Devoto's Devotion, Here is Bite, and then your Quill Rain 5 or 6 link. And then that's it. Ring 2 is an amethyst based for the Chaos Resist. Now if you don't want to buy a Replica Conqueror's Efficiency, which is the final jewel for the -9 total mana cost, you might be able to get away with it by having the -7 craft on there. It's only -2, and then having the Conqueror's Efficiency in there, which will give you more mana, which will offset the craft. You're probably not going to be able to get the craft yourself unless you got really lucky with your one betrayal incident as you were leveling. So you might have to get a friend to do it, or pay someone on TFT to do the craft. But I highly suggest having both Replica Conquerors and the -7 mana cost on here, as shown in the build case earlier in the video. Let's move on to the comprehensive notes section now, and then that'll draw the this section of the video to a close. So that's my water bottle you just heard there. So this is pretty much a walk and written guide on when to get what gems where from which quests as you level through, with the least amount of gear changes required to make it a lot easier on your chromes, jewelers and fusings. Here we go into the Here is Bite quiver, where you get your onyx amulet. You also need to look out for a shark tooth quiver, a normal one, from a vendor, and a chance orb. And then you buy the Rain of Arrows jewel when you hop back here as well, and then you're just waiting on a GCP. As soon as you get that GCP, apply that to your Rain of Arrows, take Orbit Chance, your Shark Tooth, normal Shark Tooth quiver, your rare Onyx Amulet, and your 1% Rain of Arrows. Sell it all to a vendor, you get a Here is Bite, job done. So if you see a Vaal side area, jump into it, because Vaal Rain of Arrows can drop in there. Also, if it's got quality, that'll do you in 1 gem. And you go through in Act 2, it tells you what gems to get. Again, Act 3, here it says what links you're looking for. So for example, in Act 3 you're looking for BB green green, triple green red, blue blue green green, a blue socket, and a blue socket somewhere. In your Hoff hand, you're needing 3 green and 1 other. as for examples here where there's no gem from the quest that's usable by us. So you take a gem for later use, like on a secondary character, or to sell to get resist rings, or to trade. Here we do the first aura swap, and just like I said, just follow the written guides, and you won't go wrong. A couple of trade options here: Praxis, unique ring. It's got lots of mana and reduced mana cost, which could be nice. The Hoop of All, always good. Attributes, elemental resists, damage, and a bit of rarity. Who doesn't like a bit of rarity these days? More importantly for us, attributes. If you don't have one drop, you can check the price on trade on day 1/2 or whenever you're leveling. They depends how much they cost. In Act 4 is when I start saying you're looking for your Astramentis, and look for your. As soon as you get to Act 2. Start looking for Death Rush. It could be very expensive on League Start. The price does come down eventually, but you still need one in Endless Heist. It is BIS for Endless Heist. It is such a nice ring. In Act 6 here, I go through what gems to buy, how to set up your links, and even here I say stay in the weapon, put your ballistic totem, because it's easier to get the gem colours on the bow than it is on the Queen of the Forest. So, big, bold reminder that you're going to need 3 silver oils for your amulet anointment, so you're going to need to keep tracking trade to see how much they are, unless you're in a group find scenario, or you've had some drop potentially in Heist. But you are going to need 3 silver oils for your anointment. It's the only way to get Haste, all 4 auras running. In here it says it's a reminder for the Act 10 aura change as well. And then down here it's like for the end game bit, note on replicas currency, reason why we're using the uniques we use. I've put an honourable mention here for replica Quill Rain, which is quite an expensive replica. It's quite rare. But it does something like 250% more damage than Quill Rain itself. However, anything you put in it is then supported by Arrow Nova support, which in a Heist environment you have very little control. I had one in my stash, I forelinked it, I tried it, I hated it, because you can't direct the self-cast explosive arrow. It wasn't very good. But it does do a ton of damage. Other options here, you can craft an Imperial Bow base, which has got the elemental damage with attacks base, with the suggested crafts, but I did this in Craft of Exile, and it very rarely turned out better than a normal Quill Rain. So if you're going to buy one from trade, just keep an eye on the DPS versus your Quill Rain versus what it would be like to have the bow. Quiver wise, you don't need a Hero's Bite once you've got a well rolled Astramentis, so you can drop that in favour of a Primal Quiver base, and these are the suggested affixes to have on there. If you want to take this build further, you can go for alt quality BIS gems, which I've included a list for there as well. And then finally a note here on big ticket items. Mage Blood, if you can afford one, definitely Mage Blood makes this build absolutely phenomenal. Headhunter, not much so. We don't need the stats the Headhunter is usually used for. There's not that many rares in Heist to gain the buffs. So it would be more of a I don't know. I don't think it's very useful in this particular circumstances. Corrupted gear and corrupted gems, yep, absolutely. They will add a ton of power. Buy them from trade, but when you're doing the trade search, remember to set the level requirement max to 67, so you're not buying corrupted gear or gems that you then potentially can't use because of our limited level. And that's it done. Just again, another note, at the time of recording and putting this video together, no one was doing this build for this purpose that I could find. And honourable shout outs go to Spicy Sushi, who first put me on to inspiration of using Explosive Arrow in Heist, and to Baylor Mage for his part tree setup and skill setup for Explosive Arrow to hit from their relevant YouTube videos. On to the outro. In closing, of the end of this video. I hope my editorial skills are getting better and this video has come together in a good state. It's been 3.5 weeks in the making. I've been ill during the time as well, which is why I haven't done much content, and I've been absent from Discord and my own Twitter. I've just been really ill. As you can hear in the videos, I'm still getting over it. I'm still ill now, guzzling water like a fish. On screen is the build. I got halfway through Act 4 on the final stage of testing. So this is, quickly go over the gear. This is the crafted ones I mentioned about. I haven't done the rare version where you use a rare ring. These are still base ones with our frost blink and level 5 precision. This is the lightning trap set up in the helm. This is the flamethrower trap, which is why I suggest using evasion energy shield bases, because getting 2 green and 2 blue should only take 2, maybe 3 chromes, and then in the gloves we can go for armor evasion to get your explosive trap done. This took 4 or 5 chromes. A well crafted belt. I wasn't lucky enough to get one with 35 strength on there, but 29 is doable. That's just a spare wand. I was lucky enough to pick up this from one of the bosses, which is why I haven't got a Purity of Elements gem. My Purity of Elements is coming from this amulet. And in these boots are the crafted boots that I talk about in the video. So I picked these up in Act 1 as white boots. Got at Act 2, used my Act 1 Quicksilver Flask and an Orb of Augmentation, 10% movement speed. And then as I've been lucky enough to find more Quicksilver Flasks, I've just got the same pair of boots, sold it back to the vendor with another Orb of Augmentation and a Quicksilver Flask, and that's made them 15%, 20%, 25%. Now, my tree actually doesn't have any movement skill on there at all, because we are still leveling. So without the Quicksilver Flask, this is just base 25% movement speed. Then you're in the lucky. I got lucky on my Quicksilver as well, so I write that in, and you whiz through the acts. And this is Act 4. I've got 25% move speed boots. This is why I don't understand when people are like, no, you need to keep your 2 Quicksilver Flasks. No, I don't. No, I don't. Anyway, that was a sidetrack. I apologise. I'm done for 3.19 now. That's it. No more testing or new builds. I did the Elementalist Golem build from the Discord community member, and I've done this one, and this has taken a lot of time to do because there's no one else out there doing it. At the time I started this testing process, no one had done this build, and it still doesn't exist, not that I can find anyway. Someone has done it in the PoE community, but there's nothing on PoE Ninja. I've found no videos to it. You might find one now, but at the time I recorded this, there was nothing. So this is my Explosive Arrow Trickster build. Honorary mention goes to Bailey Mage for the skill setup that I to a certain extent copied from his Raider Explosive Arrow hit build guide that you can find on his channel, and the idea of using Explosive Arrow in Heist came from Spicy Sushi. He's got a Elementalist version of Explosive Arrow, but I think he does it with the Ignite version. So he gave me the idea of using Explosive Arrow in Heist, Bailey Mage with the skill package, and then I went, Trickster, because Trickster's always been my favourite ascendancy ever since I really started to understand PoE back in just after Betrayal ended. I can't remember which league that was. I've loved Trickster, and now it's back in its prime. You'll probably see me playing a lot more Trickster builds, regardless of Raider being arguably faster than Pathfinder in Heist. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope I haven't messed it up with all the editorial stuff. I'll see you in the next one.